goods. Uh, you know, as part of this, it came out. For, I guess I would just say for myself, the project came out of Void, which for a number of years operated as a commercial gallery, looking at emerging artists and trying to create pathways into the commercial art world. After running Void for about 5 years, we closed the doors of our main space, and we are now a registered nonprofit. But we're looking at how to, navigate the space where we were moving away from like the higher end commercial art into more accessible works that sit within a community. And when also the other half of this was running a print studio, which, looking at screen printing, risograph printing, as you mentioned, other forms of making goods, and had really enjoyed the opportunities inherent in creating apparel because it allows for personal expression. It allows for different forms of creative output than traditional might. And so wanted to still create those pathways, still create opportunities for artists to enter into this, because there aren't many, if almost any, apparel brands out there which operate like a, more in terms of like a gallery or a publisher where you're working to release the goods of artists. And so we've been putting out open calls now for a couple of years and working with artists across Canada, but of course, with the majority of artists from here in Saskatchewan, and then working at promoting those goods out.
Okay. So what led you to Creative Saskatchewan?
Through Void, I have been a member of SAS Galleries for a number of years, and was aware of the programming through Creative Sask. We have, as Void and now Cold Pizza, applied for grants on a few occasions. We appreciate the opportunity that it gives it to us. It's like seed funding. It's early stage funding to help you get started, help you get those first programs out there, and the ability to run a marketing campaign, which I'm sure we'll talk about that campaign a little bit more coming up, but the ability to run a campaign where we're only taking on half of the financial burden. Early stage, these are not necessarily going to fully, it takes a couple of years sometimes, especially within craft and visual art practices, to see that return on investment. And so it's really taken that burden off of us, which is great.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, we are recording this session today, and you did have the opportunity to leave the meeting if you did not want to be part of the recording. So we will be posting this up hopefully on our website at a later date for anyone who missed it and who would like to get more information. So thank you very much. So what made you decide to apply to the micro MED program rather than the major MED? Because we have the two streams, right?
Yeah, and I have also been on the jury for the major one, and I will say it's a decent amount of work to prepare everything, get it for, and I've always been a proponent of entry points and lower barrier access. And for us, this application took a process of hours as opposed to a process of probably, work over a number of days in preparation. And when we're, we considering, I guess, a couple factors were, we launched in late 2019, a few months before the pandemic, and launching an online brand has ended up being a nice opportunity in that it hasn't been affected the same way that, we would have been had we been running an in-person shop. But at the same time, a little over a year into our business, we weren't at the point of being able to reasonably invest tens of thousands of dollars and expect an immediate return. We want to build sustainably, and we want to build smartly. And so looking at the level of what, looking at where we were at in sales and what would help us take a reasonable next step, throwing $20,000 in marketing at this wasn't going to produce $20,000 in results, but a couple thousand would. And so having that opportunity to get our brand out there nationally, while not spending as much time, while I understand the need for, more intensive applications when you're asking for more funds, for us, it didn't take time away from, the amount of time didn't take time away from production and marketing and everything else that we were already doing.
Awesome, thank you. How did you put your team together to make this project?
Actually, because we're part of SAS Galleries, we had developed, SAS Galleries had started a marketing campaign. And I was part of the decision-making process there, or at least one of the board members who had been pushing forward with a decision to look at individual marketing, like a small amount of capital toward individual marketing for each organization, as opposed to only the group marketing plans. And so as part of this, we had hired Island Creative here in Saskatoon to work with each of the galleries that were part of this program individually to develop marketing. My partner, Laura, who does more of the marketing inside of our business than myself, had suggested the pizza box, the subscription box idea for us. And that was where when we had approached Island, we had talked with them on a few different projects. And when I mentioned this as a possibility, they just sort of said, yeah, that's the one. Like, this is, that's where you're going to be able to get a return on investment. And at that point, we had the opportunity to start producing some of the social media images and text to introduce this box with them. And so then bringing them on, at that time, I was able to say to them, there's this micro grant stream coming up. We're planning to apply. I will let you know as soon as we get results, but let's put this together with the idea that we'll have more funds coming in. Then when we were approved, I was able to go back to Island and then move forward with the project. So the process of putting the team together, we had that existing relationship, but also we knew because it was a smaller campaign and it was a marketing campaign, what we needed was sort of one team to help produce and then publish those materials, purchase the ads, get them out there on social media.
Would you mind if I shared some images that we put together for some of the
Sure.
social media? Because I think they're absolutely wonderful and totally adorable. So these are were these some of the advertisements that you had used on social media?
This one in particular is actually a screen cap from our website. So when we moved from that social media campaign initially to the subscription box, which was funded through the micro grant, a good portion of that went toward producing a website, which was, and we really wanted a landing page that specific, so you weren't going to the front page of our website, but something specific where you could purchase. So that's actually just the top banner of that website. So yeah. The next image here, once we got into that campaign, this is actually just a photo I took and then threw our logo on. So pretty low barrier, but it wasn't something that was produced professionally, but just we were finding that because it was the first time, while we were having an uptake of sales, people wanted to know what was going to be in it. And so by nearer to the end of the campaign, rather than being a complete surprise, we started publishing more and more of some of the content. And this is one of those images. Similar here. Yeah, just more of the content that we were trying to produce to really market out the box. This is one of their ads that they started. Again, this idea of trying to launch something that was new. So, what part of it was marketable, and also trying to get people to, sign up. So this was released, and then anyone who shared our initial images that we released then got this code, that no pineapple code, through there. It's like Instagram or Facebook DMs. And so a lot of that was facilitated by Island, but it was just that was their idea, which was, let's launch this, but then you get $10 off if you share the image. And so it just expanded that reach so much quicker.
Awesome. Thanks so much for talking about that. That was sort of a bit of a surprise to you. Sorry.
No, it's good.
So moving on, we ask in our applications a lot about goals, and often we ask, why is this the next logical step? And so I'm going to ask you, what were the goals that you set out to achieve with the Shop Cold Pizza marketing campaign? You've already talked about a little bit about that, but is there anything more you want to add there?
Well, I think in large part that campaign came out because we wanted to extend our audience. Because we're online, we don't need to be selling only within Saskatchewan. That, as soon as you have a Shopify or another online shop, it just lets you get outside the province so much quicker and easier. And so knowing that we are producing somewhat niche items, I believe in our designs, but I also know that they're not necessarily going to be like the most widely purchased across all demographics. We're going to find our markets. And so we need, in order to, build the brand, we need to reach larger markets. And so one of our main goals was to start to sell into larger centers outside of Saskatoon. And so when Island started to put out the campaign, they focused on markets, ones that we saw, like, major centers that we saw as potentials, but also centers where we had seen previous sales. So then the goals became to increase those sales to those markets, create sales in new markets. And then we put forward numbers, some sales targets in terms of the number of boxes and the amount of product that we were wanting to sell. I think just on that note, though, one of the surprises to us was that the sales didn't always come in the form just of those boxes, but we saw overall sales to our website increase. And I would say that was reflected in our final reporting, where we were able to report more generally on how we saw increases in total sales. And it wasn't something that we really thought of going in, because we had set our targets mainly on the box. And while we did sell, I would say we sold a good number of them and we're happy with how those sales went. It was really those overall sales that were the biggest win for us. And so if we were to, apply for this again, I think even in terms of how we were setting those targets, we would do that a little differently.
And so this, the whole thing had some unexpected benefits that maybe perhaps weren't initially reaching for, but had appeared, because of the campaign you ran and the traffic that it brought to your website. So that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the timeline. So for the timeline for this marketing campaign was focused on the weeks before the December holidays in 2020. So talk about how marketing for this project differs from an average marketing plan.
Well, so when we're producing apparel, normally our focus is on the individual goods. It's on the tees or the bags or the prints that we're producing. And then if someone sees it, identifies with it, then they're purchasing it for their personal use. That's great. When we were switching to a holiday and a gift-giving mindset, I think, at least in my own life, I find it hard to buy for others, in as much as I don't always know if my personal style or what I'm connecting with is going to connect with them. And so the cold pizza box was an effort to focus on consumer-facing goods and understanding what they might be looking for. The idea of giving a collection of locally made product, of hand printed products to someone, that they're going to find items in there that they like. And, there might be items in there that aren't really their style, but it gives you a fairly broad spectrum of items to choose from. And for us, it was that switch in focus because of the holiday season. And then when we were putting forward, as I was mentioning, those other sales, one of the other campaigns that we sort of launched so this was just funded by our own marketing. It wasn't through the grant funding, and it was a lot of a smaller campaign, but we just released what we called the surprise bag, which we took some of the stock that we had produced in previous years that was still hanging out and put it together at greatly reduced cost. I think you were getting like a $75 bag for a $25, $75 value for $25. And we threw up a very small amount of ads. I think like something like $50 worth of ads on Facebook, and sold over $1,000 worth of those bags. We weren't making a lot of money at this point because we were giving such a discount, but this is stock that's sitting there. And for us, because we're in our first couple of years of this campaign of cold pizza, our biggest goal has been around getting the word out there. Yes, we want to make some money in this interim, but it's much more than that. What we want to do is get brand awareness. And so knowing that that's the goal, these things like this, that surprise bag, which again was just a matter of packaging something up. You were getting product. It was $25. It was locally made, and I know during the pandemic, there has been an increased focus on local, right? But you were also getting this collection of items you could give as like stocking stuffers. It was just an easy thing. And like I say, that we ended up selling out with almost no advertising money behind it. It didn't take much. but it was also that there was the pizza box campaign running and creating greater awareness of our brand. And then where the pizza box was an $80 buy-in, this was like a $25. And so creating those different price points, it was interesting to see how those two work together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you're able to create accessible art to a lot of people and at two different price points, right? That really. So we kind of covered this in terms of what specific type of activities did you undertake to reach new customers with Shop Cold Pizza? Because you talked a little bit about how your reach really expanded with like Shopify, and you were aiming towards not just Saskatchewan customers but beyond. So what types of activities did you undertake?
I think the main one was the marketing campaign and making sure that our products were on our website with good copy and images to let people have the confidence in purchasing them, and then figuring out the price points that people are comfortable buying online. It's getting less and less of a barrier. People are comfortable buying online. We're using, when we're choosing the brands of t-shirts that we're printing on, we're able to give size charts with them. Like you're trying to create opportunities that reduce the sort of worry about getting the wrong size and then not knowing, being stuck with something. When we have been then promoting that, the promotions sort of vary between the packaging of the products and then good quality photos to show off the products themselves. We have been, as I say, we put out open calls and have artists across Canada that we work with, and then they have been kind and smart enough, I would say, to also reshare the social media posts that we're creating. So part of that, part of our ability for reach is because of the way that we've structured our brand is, in working with people across the province, and you're working with their networks. And so we're always trying to find abilities to, sort of build through networks rather than just, flood a market with ads and hope that someone trusts our brand. We will be in the coming months looking more at marketing around the way that, like, our printing methods and the creation to let people sort of see inside the studio, because the more that we're able to show off some of that handmade process, I think that also speaks to what we do in our brand. And we do that through some sort of Instagram stories and other social media posts, but for the most part it's just sharing out content, working with artists.
So in your opinion, was the campaign successful? And what are some of the ways that you set out to measure the success of the campaign?
So for us, it was, we certainly got our name out there, and we saw sales very, very easy to say across Canada. It was, so on the side of the subscription box, we had created two options: the single box, which was, I believe, 80. And then if you wanted to get four of them over the course of the next year, so like the yearly subscription, we gave a slight discount. I think that was $280 for 4. And what was interesting was we obviously sold more of the singles, but the longer subscriptions we sold were all outside Saskatchewan to people we didn't know. We had some repeat customers who we had not reached before, who spent hundreds of dollars on purchases. And it's that sort of that, I don't know, at least in my experience, building a brand or a shop, one of the hardest steps to take is to reach beyond your immediate sphere. Those who, your friends and family come and buy, and it's like when people who don't know you start buying, that it becomes exciting. And we saw people from seeing an Instagram ad then spend, close to $300 in our shop. And that was, we'd hope that would be an outcome, but to see it actually come to fruition was cool.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that, and that's highly quotable. That excitement, that feeling of things are happening.
Yeah, for sure.
So just a couple more questions,
Yeah,
and then if there's any questions that participants have, please put them in the chat for Michael, or you can save your questions until the end. After we're finished here, we are going to move on to a presentation from Lisa Perpich, who's another program officer with Creative Saskatchewan, and she's going to talk through all the finer points of the Market and Export Development Microstream Grant. So I just have a couple more questions for you, Michael, and
sure.
then so was this project created as a response or a pivot during COVID-19?
Not really. I think it was something that, like I say, speaking with my partner and as we were uh, conceptualizing how to move forward with the project and how to reach audiences, this just sort of came up as the next logical step. I think our pivots more came even earlier on when we started to really promote out the fact that we were back in March and April promoting out the fact that we were doing local delivery, you know, contactless drop off on the steps. I think we all remember that stage of the pandemic where that was really the only way to get goods. And we would just take videos each week of us going up and dropping off packages to remind people. It was a really simple thing of both reminding people that we were out there, but also sort of showing off that people were still ordering, you know, and it was actually in that time period because I guess I would say the pivot that we took place was in our first season, so fall of 2019. We had sold through a few different markets, you know, which is a traditional, you know, method to go, and we would certainly plan to do a few more now that we can start to foresee that with the pandemic, you know, where we're at this stage. So that, but once COVID hit, we had this online store, but we had done nothing to promote it. And I think at this point, we'd had like 2 online sales. You know, like it was basically nil because we weren't promoting it. We were just going out to shops. So in March, we pivoted our marketing and just started really promoting that we were doing local delivery or mail outs and saw an uptake. And it was, you know, and then we've seen increases this year over last year because that market our market reach is expanding, and certainly I'm sure the marketing campaign helped with that.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So I have one last question from Creative Saskatchewan. And then we have a question that was sent into us in advance. And I think some of it has already been addressed. So just lastly, what benefits did the Creative Saskatchewan grant bring to the project? And I think you've already addressed that somewhat.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can repeat a bit, but yeah, just to sort of say it was that market reach and that getting our word out there. But I would just say too, for us, we knew that we would, you know, receive benefit back from this. But again, it can take, I just know within our within our sector, it can take a little bit of time. You need to get those ads out there. You need to get in people's knowledge, and we expect, because we'll be doing some campaigning again this season, and you know, we hope that some of those people who saw it last year may be keeping us in mind for this year, and so then we'll sort of remind them. But we knew we wouldn't necessarily financially receive all the, you know, while we may, you know, we'll make sales, we weren't sure if we would financially receive all the benefit in first year. And so I think the main benefit was allowing us to do this while not having to take money out of our production streams, because we weren't having to stop buying stock. We weren't having to worry about whether, you know, we could still afford the level of inventory that was necessary. It just allowed us to move forward in that way.
Thank you so much. And we have this question from Kristen. So I think a lot of this has already been addressed, but she says, what marketing methods did you implement with your grant funding, and which were the most effective and why?
Yeah, so social media marketing was number one. Going back to my days of Void, we've done some levels of radio advertising. We had through our local community radio. We had tried a few different methods, but seen very low responses in social media marketing for a couple reasons. One, because we already are an online shop. It just makes perfect sense to advertise online, and then you're just directing people directly there. You know, you're already using the media they're on, but also the cost, the number of people you reach for the dollars you spend is so low compared to other methods. And for us, we really are looking at smaller niche marketing. We're not trying to create like Coca-Cola level brand awareness, right? So that was always good for us.
Thank you. We have a question from Anne Neufeld.
Yeah.
And she says, is this an equity investment repaid from net profit or direct non-repayable grant? And that's, I think I can answer that one.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably a you, but yes, go
Yeah,
for it.
no, it's not an equity investment. Like most Creative Saskatchewan grants, it's a 50-50. So you come with 50% of the project budget, and based on your application, we supply the other 50% to a maximum of $5,000 from Creative Saskatchewan. It's a flat out grant. There's no repayment. So that's good news for everyone. So thank you again so much, Michael. I really appreciate you volunteering to be our first victim. I mean, panelist, discussing your work with Shop Cold Pizza and all the things that you're doing to bring art to people and to get your brand awareness out there. So I really appreciate your chat today. And I'm.
Oh, sorry. Can I just ask? I'm seeing a few questions in the Q&A section as well. Do you want me to just type answers there, or should we?
Oh, okay. I'm missing those. Okay. Okay. Do you have connections with local writers, especially in children's books? I'm not sure about that one. Oh, is there anything you would do differently next time around?
Next time around, I think I'm trying to think what we would do differently. I think the one thing we found when we were launching our subscription box is we weren't sure how many people would like the idea of a local art subscription box or how many would need to sell the products. And we found that when we started to release product images, we saw sales increase. And so I think because it was the first time, we would put a little bit more of a focus on showing the products. But otherwise, we were good.
Okay, so we will have an opportunity to answer some grant-specific questions towards the end of today's lunch. Right now, we need to move on, obviously, because Lisa has her presentation to make. So thank you again, Michael. And now I turn it over to my colleague, Lisa Perpich, who's going to give a presentation about the micro market and export grant.
Well, thank you very much, Karen, and thank you to Michael. Yes, my name is Lisa Perpich, formerly Lisa Lanigan. I'm a program officer here at Creative Saskatchewan, and I am so pleased that you have all taken the time from your busy schedules to join us for the first Creative Saskatchewan Lunchroom series. Throughout the year, we'll be chatting about our grant programs and giving you the opportunity to learn more about them and to ask questions. So stay tuned for details about the upcoming Lunchroom series workshops throughout the year. The next one coming up is June 30th. It's about the SaskTel Max Equity Fund. Toby Lampard from Creative Saskatchewan will be talking about the changes to the SaskTel Max Equity Fund, and she'll go over the program, answer your questions, and tell you everything you need to know in advance of the July 15th SaskTel Max Equity Fund deadline. So mark it on your calendars, film and television producers. That's June 30th, the SaskTel Max Equity Fund workshop as part of the Creative Saskatchewan Lunchroom series. Today, however, I'm excited to help you learn the ins and outs of the MicroStream grant and how it can help get you and your business out there. We'll chat about the program, the guidelines, review the assessment criteria, discuss the timing of your project alongside the program deadlines, and help you determine if this grant is right for your project. So let's dive in. The Market and Export Development Grant has two streams. The first stream is the major marketing stream, which has been around since the launch of Creative Saskatchewan quite some time ago. This stream is intended to support larger scale marketing opportunities. Applicants can apply for a maximum of $25,000 or 50% of eligible expenses per fiscal year, or a maximum of $50,000 or 50% of eligible expenses over a 2-year period. Application deadlines for this stream vary depending on the creative sector, and those deadlines are found on the Creative Saskatchewan website. These applications are all assessed by a peer jury, and results are generally available 10 weeks after the deadline date. Unsuccessful applicants can apply for the next deadline as long as the activity hasn't happened at the time of application, and of course, as long as the program is still open. But the stream that we're going to talk about today is the micro-marketing stream. We introduced this grant last year in response to the pandemic to get cash out the door quickly and to help creative entrepreneurs efficiently market their products. The stream is intended to support smaller scale marketing opportunities. Applicants can apply for a maximum of $5,000 or 50% of eligible expenses and are limited to one market and export micro marketing grant per fiscal. And money received from this stream goes towards the annual cap of $25,000 that an applicant can receive in a year. Applications are assessed internally and by a panel of marketing professionals. Unsuccessful applicants are eligible to apply, reapply twice per fiscal, again, as long as the activity hasn't happened at the time of application. The cutoff dates for all sectors are approximately every 6 weeks. So the first one of the year is coming up July 5th. After that, we have August, October, November, January, and February. The micro marketing grant provides efficient and timely access to marketing support for small but sharply focused and effective marketing projects. Activities like the production of music and promotional videos, print and online advertising campaigns, updating website and marketing assets, the hiring of marketing and social media experts, working with the publicist, and the production and marketing of live stream performances. To put it into perspective and give you some examples, here's a list of micro marketing recipients from last year. This list is also found on our website and published in our annual report. Various activities for marketing of film and television projects. We had an interactive digital media project. Lots of music campaigns, generally in support of a new album or single. We had some book publishing marketing campaigns in support of new books. Craft and visual art went to galleries and artists in support either of just, general business marketing or specific projects that were being undertaken, and a couple of live performing arts productions. So as you can see, the micro stream marketing grant really helps Saskatchewan creative entrepreneurs get their products out there in many ways. So if you're convinced, if you're ready to apply, this is the grant for you. There's some things you need to consider and some steps you need to take. The first one is eligibility. Both the general and the specific grant guidelines can be found on the website. It sounds really boring, I know, but it's super important to read. The guidelines will help you determine if you are eligible to apply, as well as if the activity you are hoping to undertake is eligible. If you have any doubt at all, you can always reach out to a program officer and we can help you. The next thing you want to look at is the assessment criteria. And this is linked on the website, and it's exactly how your application will be assessed and the questions you'll need to answer in your application. Things like demonstrated market reach. Where did the majority of your sales for your service or product over the past 12 months occur? Regional, national, or international? What is being marketed? Is it a product or release that's more than 24 months old, or is it newer? Or is it the services of a business? Your project target market. Select where the target market is located for the project you're applying for support for and give specific details about that market. Again, regional, national, or international. The quality of your project plan. This part is assessed by marketing professionals. You'll provide a detailed work plan describing the marketing tools used to reach the target audience, along with the tasks that will make up the activity, the order those tasks will be undertaken, and the resources required to complete it. Participation of a professional service provider. Have you hired anyone, or is this work that you're undertaking yourself? Past success of applicant and strength of project team. This part again is assessed by a panel of marketing professionals. You'll want to demonstrate past successes and achievements by yourself and your company. Then you can add up the total. 10 points or higher, your project is eligible to receive 50% of budgeted expenses to a maximum of $5,000, pending on availability of funds. If less than 10 points, the project is ineligible for funding. And an important note, just because you score 10 points or more doesn't mean you'll automatically receive funding. you'll be, ranked in order of score. And sometimes funding can be exhausted, but you can reapply as long as your activity hasn't happened. You'll also need to determine the level of your creative practice. That would be emerging, intermediate, or established. And these definitions, along with other information, is also included in the assessment criteria linked on the website. And if you feel that you're not going to score high enough in the microstream grant to be approved, you can apply to the major marketing stream, which is assessed by a peer jury. So from there, if you haven't already done so, you're going to want to get yourself set up on GMS, which is our online grant management system. It's where all applications and reporting is done. And if you have any problems or questions, you can always reach out to us and we'll help you get things set up. Next thing you're going to want to do is consider timing. As I've mentioned, applications must be submitted to Creative Saskatchewan prior to the project beginning. Now, it's okay if you put down a deposit with a vendor, or you register for an activity in advance, or like you book a flight or something like that, but you cannot start the project before you apply. As soon as you submit your application, though, you can hit the ground running. And if you need results before you begin your project, we say it takes 3 weeks after the deadline date to receive results. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So when you're looking at the timeline of your project, you can consider the application cutoff dates just to see where things are going to match up for you. It's always recommended not to wait till the last minute though. Give yourself plenty of time. Ensure your application is thorough and complete. Too often we've seen people wait till the last minute only to miss the deadline or have their application be deemed ineligible because it was incomplete. When the clock strikes 4 p.m., that is it. We have no way of adjusting our online system to accept applications submitted 1 second late. Of course, the most important factor when your application is ready to submit is a really solid plan. Your timeline, your team, your vendors, a well-researched and backed up budget, and a thorough to-do list will ensure that the product you are marketing will reach your target market through the marketing activities you have selected to do. It's so important that all the components of your application are connected and speak to one another. Next thing you're going to want to do is download the budget template sooner rather than later. It's the form you will need to use to capture all the expenses you will be incurring, and will also give you a strong sense of all the different types of marketing activity that this grant supports. It can be found on GMS in the templates folder, and you just download it. Read the instructions in the top. It contains really important information and reminders. Things like GST and HST are ineligible expenses. So all expenses in the budget must have the GST and HST removed. However, PST you can include because that's something that you don't apply to get back. All amounts have to be in Canadian dollars. If it's not, you can use the Bank of Canada currency converter and demonstrate the exchange rate calculation in your budget. If travel expenses are part of your project, you must use the travel itinerary template, and that is found in the GMS folder as well. Per diem and mileage rates, see the information that we have on the website. There's a page for that. In-house, that amount refers to any portion of the budget that will be spent within your own business, organization, or group. It can be defined as business conducted within one's own company. Normally, an admin fee is ineligible if there are in-house expenses in the budget, but in response to the pandemic, we waive that and we're allowing applicants with in-house expenses to also claim the admin fee, which is 15% of the total expenses to a maximum of $5,000. As I mentioned, there's a ton of activity that is captured in the budget. This is a template, but things like promotional expenses, like branding and artwork, photography, promotional merchandise for giveaway, printed materials, promotional or performance videos, hiring a publicist or radio promoter, engaging the services of a marketing agency, print or online advertising, web design, social media campaign, attending or hosting a marketing event. All expenses that you are claiming should appear in the budget column. If they're in-house expenses, that amount The amount being spent in your own business should also be in the in-house column, and any amount being spent in the province should also be in the SAS spend column. When all expenses are in the budget, check the totals, then add the 15% admin fee to a maximum of $5,000. The total expenses and the admin fee will give you the grand total. That amount divided by 2 will let you know what you're eligible for, to a maximum of $5,000. From there, you're going to list how you're going to finance the project. Include the name of the contributor, if the commitment is confirmed or if it's pending, and the amount being committed. List any revenue the project will generate in the revenue projection portion. It can be difficult to attach revenue directly to marketing, but ask yourself how much product undertaking the activity will allow you to sell, and what future opportunities will arise from the exposure. What is the least amount of revenue expected and what is the most? Use those numbers for the high and low estimates. Finally, list the total revenue projections, both high and low, and subtract the grand total amount of expenses from both the projections, and voila, that is the market and export development grant budget. So to expand on the project financing structure of your budget, basically, how will you pay for it? Creative Saskatchewan will fund 50% up to $5,000. The rest can come from personal contributions like savings, a line of credit. There can be confirmed crowdfunding. There can be a third-party investment like a label, a family member, an angel investor, or funding from another funding agency. Just remember, Creative Saskatchewan grants can't be matched by funding from SaskArts or SaskCulture. From there, you'll get the results after you submit. If you're successful, we'll be in touch and let you know what the next steps are. If you're unsuccessful, and believe me, pretty much everyone has been at one point or another, we'll provide you with scores and any feedback available, and you can reapply to the market and export micro stream twice per fiscal as long as the activity hasn't happened. Jury advice. So we reached out to a whole bunch of jurors that have assessed applications in the past for us, and we asked them for advice. What would they like to tell future applicants? I've kind of condensed it, and there's a whole bunch, so I'll just quickly run through it. Write your entire application assuming that no one on the jury has ever heard of you. Be brief, provide a clear summary of who you are and what you do. Include overall goals that are reasonable, attainable, and possible. The jury wants to see a well thought out plan that demonstrates cohesion with where you're at in your career. Have a sense of what the activity or project will do for your career. How will it make you more viable as a member of the artistic community? Get specific about your goals for your project. Make sure you tie them into your overall career goals. Be concise. The jury wants good information on you and your plan. They don't need a 60-page manifesto. Keep the application focused. Spend a lot of time answering why and who is it for. The jury wants to see that you've done research. Make sure you answer as many questions as possible. State all your points of what you're going to do, then give clearly defined specific examples of how you're going to do this. Go through several drafts. Have someone look over your grant. Start early and plan it out. Bullet points over long form narrative is preferred. Don't be repetitive. Be honest and transparent. Have fun. Show your passion for your art. Watch the numbers. Be accurate, reasonable, and economical. Do your budget research. Marketing plans are one of the most important assets for your submission. List what your milestones are when it comes to marketing. And there's a really great example of the different components of a marketing plan. Now, marketing plans, there was some really great advice given about marketing plans, and there's all too often misconceptions about what a marketing plan actually is. Essentially, a marketing plan is a roadmap, an evolving organic document that's an artist's Bible. It includes precise details about yourself, your product, relevant and notable past successes people who have worked on the project with you have had, your target markets, your team, details on any publicity campaigns or strategies that have been planned or executed to support the product, and details about all the types of marketing tools and platforms you plan to use. Also include information on why you're marketing and how you're going to track them. You can upload your marketing plan into your GMS profile, which will be pulled into your applications. Just remember to update it as you move forward in your career. And just a hot tip, Factor, the music funding agency, the foundation assisting Canadian talent on recordings, they have a great marketing plan template, which is free. Just Google Factor, all caps, and marketing plan template, and you can use it. The marketing plan will help inform the details of the project you're applying for support for, but your project plan will be focused, specific activity that corresponds with the application budget and timeline. Now, as you make your way through the application process, you'll likely have questions, and that's what we're here for. Just visit our website and you can find contact information for all of the program officers at Creative Saskatchewan. You can also book a Zoom consult. Just visit the website, click on the link, fill out the request. The Creative Saskatchewan program officers make themselves available for 30-minute spots throughout the week to chat with folks such as yourself about our programs and answer all of your questions. So speaking of questions, now's your opportunity to ask any questions you may have about the Market and Export Development Grant MicroStream. I'm happy to help. Creative Saskatchewan Program Team Manager Toby Lampard is here, along with officers Karen Jarwitz and Andrea Martineau. So let me see here in the chat. It looks like those questions were answered. Okay, I'm gonna, let's see. Could you give an example of how this grant could be utilized by a film production? Absolutely, just basic marketing of a product. So if it's something that is being released, you know, like I suppose some production companies do marketing campaigns and promotion of themselves, but generally it's of a product. So when, you know, a new film or television series or something is being released, you can absolutely apply to market that. I don't know.
I could maybe add something, Lisa.
For sure, Toby.
Yeah, for sure. So when your television series, show, documentary is ready to be distributed, you might have a distribution company that has a plan. For the major marketing stream, a lot of film productions come in with their distribution company. The distribution company will add some money for the project marketing, and so does Creative Saskatchewan. And their initiatives often are cutting trailers, social media campaigns, film festival campaigns. If you get into the Toronto International Film Festival, for example, you'll hire a publicist and you'll do a lot of marketing and publicity for that release at that festival. So that's just a little drop of what you might be able to do with your film or television production or series. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Toby. And just a note, I mentioned earlier that we do list grant recipients on the website and in our annual reports. And I mean, I think it's fun to kind of geek out on that and go through it. A lot of people don't even realize it's there, but it can be a really valuable tool to see what activity other folks have undertaken, and it can give you some really cool ideas. So be sure to check it out. It's a good resource. We have another question about, let's see, I feel I won't score high enough, but I need funding under $5,000. Would it make sense for me to apply to the major stream, or should I apply to the micro stream instead? Well, that's completely up to you. There isn't like a minimum you need to apply for the major stream. So, you know, you're more than welcome to apply to the major stream if you feel that that you would, you know, be better off doing that. And I noticed a question here from Danny. Hi, Danny. Once you've received grant funding, when does the fiscal year restart and to apply again? That's a great question. Our fiscal year end is March 31st, so the new fiscal year starts April 1st. So we're just kind of starting out with the programs now for this fiscal. Could I use this grant to hire a marketing firm? Absolutely. I'm okay. Krista Mitchell. I'm new to Creative Saskatchewan funding. Forgive me if this is starter level. Where does the funding for this grant come from? Is there a max total per year that is granted or per application period? Is there an ideal time to apply? Creative Saskatchewan funding is comes from the government of Saskatchewan. So this is public dollars that we are administering. The maximum total, well, I guess there really isn't. However, I mean, each grant generally has a maximum that you can apply for funding for. Anything over $600,000 requires a order in council. But yeah, so but that specific information about each grant and that cap you can find on the website. Was that the rest of the question? Did I answer it all? It disappeared. Okay, your next question, Krista. Are there restrictions regarding using the funding to pay an employee's salary? For example, if you want to build a small website to market your upcoming film project and you or someone on your team builds websites, can you pay them for their services using this contract? Or do you need to use it exclusively for a third-party contractor? You can undertake those activities in-house. Sometimes it makes sense for an applicant to undertake that activity. You'll want to make sure, like when it comes to salaried employees, you'll want to make sure that it's not part of like the day-to-day salary, that this is something you're paying them above and beyond. You'll also want to provide you know, strong rationale as to why, you know, you or someone, you know, within your company is the best person to undertake that activity, why it makes sense, you know, for you to do that as opposed to hiring someone else, and use industry standard rates and really back those up just to demonstrate to the jury that, you know, this is in keeping with industry standard and really the best choice for you. Another question here, can money be used on merchandise? Yes, however, it has to be promotional. Merchandise that you are having produced for you to sell, that is not eligible. But let's say you're working with a graphic designer to come up with some marketing collateral for your new album or something. Of course, some of that work may, you know, go towards, you know, like your, you know, a t-shirt or other merchandise like that. But essentially the creating of the merchandise itself for sale is not eligible. Is there anything else? I think we got it all, did we, everyone?
I think that's perfect timing if I've ever seen it, Lisa.
Right? I don't know how that happened. Holy cow. But you know what? If anyone does have further questions or they want to chat, you can certainly reach out to any one of the program staff members and we'd be pleased to continue the conversation with you. So I guess I'm going to wrap it up. I'd just like to thank you once again for joining us. Remember, watch for details in the coming months about future Creative Saskatchewan Lunchroom series workshops. The next one is June 30th about SaskTel Max Equity. Thank you everyone again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.